All right, we're excited to have Mike present today on back safety. Probably the oldest, probably the most common training that we see on safety throughout history is back safety, and yet we're still doing it. Why, Mike?
Well, I think we're still doing it just because it's always gonna be there for us, right? We're always using our back. It's the center of what we do every single day. And we'll talk about that here. And Jason said though, this is one of those injuries that is going to be there all the time. We always see it here at the trust. It is always one of our lost leaders. As you look at the data here, this is through the last 5 years you can see that the back injuries are number four through these last 5 years. Now the others that you see here in the top five, okay, lower your knees, fingers, shoulders, things like that. Some of those things may fluctuate year to year. Sometimes we'll have more of those, sometimes we'll have less of those. One thing on this list stays constant though. Through the last 5, 10, 15 years, back injuries have been on the top five no matter what year you look at. So it's one of those things that is always out there and it's always going to be there for us. And so we've got to do what we can to take care of our backs. And why is that? Why do we see so many back injuries? Well, it's just the way that your back is built. Okay. The way your back is built, right? Let's talk about that for just a second. You have your spinal cord that runs down your back. Then you have all these vertebrae. And these vertebrae kind of encapsulate the spinal cord, kind of like a protective shield, as it were. And in between each of your vertebrae, you have these discs. In these discs, they act kind of like shock absorbers in your back. So when you twist or move, or you walk, or you sit, or when you put any kind of load on your back, okay, these shock absorbers, these discs, they act just like that to keep your back in line. There's also a whole conglomerate of nerves and muscles and tendons and all sorts of things that connect your back together. Because of that, it is very, very innately innervated. And so when there is any kind of an injury, how you feel it in your back. And so let's talk about why those back injuries happen so much. Okay, and a lot of it is just because of a lack of fitness. And I think we can all agree on that. If you're not fit and you're not ready to go to work, you're going to get hurt. Okay, cold muscles plus work is going to equal injury 100% of the time. That's just the way it works out. If we're not warmed up and we're not ready to go, we're going to get hurt. If we're just sitting in a chair and then we get our assignment to go out and turn shovel, or we get our assignment to go out and lift some boxes or whatever it may be, and we immediately do that and we don't warm up, or we don't stretch, or we don't get ready beforehand, we're going to get hurt. Okay. And I think we've all seen that. I played an old man softball league. I called it old man softball league because I played it. I played it with a bunch of 20-year-old kids. And these 20-year-old kids, they can go through and it doesn't matter. They can go out there, 5 minutes before the game, they can show up and then full sprint on the bases and in the outfield and in the infield. Me, I got to show up 45 minutes beforehand. I got to stretch. I got to get warmed up because otherwise I'm going to hurt myself. And I think that's what we take that time when we know we're going to go through that kind of exertion, when we go to the gym or we play in a game of some sort. We might warm up. We might stretch a little bit. But for work, do we do the same thing? Do we do the same thing when we go out and we're going to go, work out in the street or go out to the park or even sit at our desk and type away all day? Do we get ready to work? Do we do those things? Because a lot of the injuries that we've seen, they aren't as a result of a single catastrophic injury. They're as a result of wearing out. Things just happen over time where it just wears out on you. And then one day it's not okay anymore. One day the bat goes out and we get hurt. What we have to do is we have to recognize the different stages of injury that we may be experiencing. And when we start experiencing one of these stages of injury, we take care of it now. So for example, it starts out with fatigue. Okay, your muscles get tired. You get tired. You can't lift as much. You can't do as much as you could before. Okay, that's fatigue. Muscles getting tired. That's your body trying to tell you something, trying to say, hey, we need to slow down or we need to do something different. Give this muscle group a break so that we can recover for a minute. Okay. After fatigue, then we get to discomfort. If our bodies are getting tired and we don't take care of it, then it doesn't feel very good anymore. Starts to, be a little bit uncomfortable. And if then we don't take care of it, we get into pain. That's when it becomes painful to do something, but still you think, I can push through it. Let me just take some ibuprofen or some Tylenol and we'll push through it. We'll make it through it. But then if we don't take care of it, then we just try and treat it with medication, or we don't take out the underlying root cause of why we're in so much pain, then we get to disability. We're not able to use that piece of our body part anymore. Our back goes out and we can't tie our shoes or whatever it may be. We've got to be able to recognize when we're in these different stages of injury and then what to do to mitigate so that we can take care of our body so that we don't start going down the line here and get down to that disability. Okay? There are different types of stressors, what we like to call them, that may cause injury. So they're just different causes. Okay? It could be a force that's put on your body, whether that's a twist or a sudden turn, okay, on your back. It could be repetition, doing the same thing over and over and over again. I work at a dock, and what I'm doing is I'm unboxing things from a truck onto shelves. Okay, do the same thing over and over and over again. Okay, it could be typing at a desk. I sit at the desk all day long and I type on the computer and I do computer work and I answer phones and things like that. That's repetition. Doing the same thing over and over and over again, that's going to lead to injury. Again, we do the same thing over and over again. You do it for any long period of time, it's going to become uncomfortable and you're going to cause yourself injury. Awkward and static postures is a big thing. Okay, posture is a huge thing when it comes to protecting our back and making sure that our back stays healthy. Your mom was right when she was talking to you about make sure you stand up straight, make sure you don't droop your head, straighten your back out, shoulders back, whatever it may be when you sit down in the chair. Gosh, she was exactly right. Poor posture is definitely going to put you at risk if you have to having a back injury. And why is that? Well, that's because in your back, it's shaped in a natural, what we call an S curve. Okay, from your head all the way down your back, all the way down to your hips, the back follows this nice S curve as it goes through. Okay, that's just the natural curve of the spine. Now, when you sit up, when you're with your back straight, with your shoulders back, with your chin down, just barely chin down. Okay, when you sit back up in your chair like that, yeah, that's nice. You have that natural S curve. But then as soon as you start to bend over and hunch over and you get down, you start typing on your computer or you start driving your car or whatever it may be, we may release that natural S curve and instead we go to a C curve. Okay, or we hunch over, the back gets hunched over. What does that do? Because that puts a lot of stress on your lower back and your lower vertebrae. You could try that at your desk. You could try that as you're sitting down here today. Roll your shoulders back and sit up nice and straight, but then hunch your back forward. And then you could feel it almost immediately. You could feel the stress on your lower vertebrae. Okay. So we need to make sure we keep that natural S curve no matter what we're doing. What that does is it helps to redistribute that weight across your spine and to those discs like we talked about, those shock absorbers. It activates those and puts those into play. So how do we hurt our backs then? Some of it is from this weight bearing that we talked about, carrying things, carrying just our body weight can hurt our backs over time. If we're not doing it correctly, we're not carrying our weight correctly with that natural S curve. Other ways, stress from lifting, loading, and putting force on your back without having that nice natural S curve to help the discs kind of absorb the shock and absorb the weight and the force that is in your back. Now that can do it too. And remember I talked about many of these injuries aren't as a result of some catastrophic injury. I wasn't holding in something and I suddenly twisted and my back went out. It's just as a result of degeneration or damage. As you can see from the graphic here, sometimes these discs, they get degenerated. They start to bulge or they herniate their membranes that they're in. presses on those nerve bundles throughout your back and you get pain. Or you get that degeneration, those discs go away, and you get that bone on bone grind that you have. Okay, that's very painful. Okay, lots of ways we can hurt our back because they're very, very vulnerable. Now, when you think of your back, think of your whole body, okay, and then think of your waist as the fulcrum point in your body. That we carry a lot of weight in our upper half of our body, from our waist up. This part of your body, that weighs a lot. Okay. Now, the bottom half of your body, that's where all the large muscles are. The largest muscles in the human body are in the glutes, the hamstrings, and the quads. Okay. The large muscles of your lower body. When we pick up an object off the ground, if we don't activate those large muscles in the lower half of our body, we're going to cause undue pressure and stress on our backs. Okay. So think about this example. I'm going to pick up a 10-pound object off the ground. Let's say my upper body weighs 105 pounds. So from my waist up, that weighs 105 pounds. If I don't bend my legs, like you see here in the picture, if I don't bend my legs and activate those large muscles in the lower half of my body, what I'm going to do is I'm using my waist as that fulcrum as I bend over, and I'm not activating those large muscles. Instead, I'm putting all the pressure on my back. And what's that doing? That's shifting that fulcrum all the way up the line towards my back. And the way that the physics work out, it works out at a 10-to-1 ratio. So if I'm picking up a 10-pound object off the ground, my upper body weighs 105 pounds. If I'm not activating those large muscles in my lower body, it's like I'm putting 1,150 pounds of pressure, of force, on my lower back, on the lumbar area of your back. Okay? Now, if I were to shift that fulcrum down towards the weight by bending my knees and using a better lifting technique, I can minimize the pressure that's on my back because now I'm spreading it throughout my lower body as I'm activating those large quads and hamstrings and glutes to help me lift that very light 10-pound object off the ground. But I'm taking now that ratio down from a 10-to-1 to a much lower ratio of stress that I'm putting on my back. Okay? So as we talk about lifting and the proper way to lift, Jason and I are asked a lot, what's the best way we can lift? What's the best way we can lift to avoid back injuries? Tell you the truth, folks, there's no magic bullet here. There's no really quote-unquote proper lifting technique. When you talk lifting, the two biggest things when you talk lifting is to know your body and to know your limits. It's okay to tell yourself, I'm not 20 years old anymore, and I can't lift the same amount that I could when I was 20. It's totally fine to tell ourselves that, okay? That's one of the best things we can do to help, is to tell our body, have our body tell us we can't do the same things we could do when we were younger. It's okay to know our body and to know our limits. There's really no proper way to do it, but there's to know, hey, this isn't a competition. But when we do talk about techniques of lifting, there are some ways we can do it that we can help to minimize the injuries. Okay? One of the ways we can do is make sure you keep the load close to your body. Keep whatever you're lifting close to your body. Okay? Make sure you keep that natural curve, that S curve that we were talking about. Try and keep that natural S curve to your body, because what that does is it helps to redistribute the weight across the entire length of your back, across the entire musculature that you have there, and across your lower body. Next is to make sure you build a bridge. Now, many of you are thinking, what the heck does that mean to build a bridge? Well, build a bridge, a lot of you probably do it without knowing you're doing it. Last night, I was loading the dishwasher. And when after I got done loading the dishwasher, I went to go get the dish detergent that's underneath the sink. So I opened the door, and when I bent down to pick that up, I set my hand on the countertop to redistribute the weight so I didn't put pressure on my lower back. That's building a bridge. Using your hands, using it to help redistribute the weight as you bend down. That's the same thing as building a bridge, putting your hands down and making sure that you can redistribute some of that weight. The other thing we can do is make sure you move your feet first. Okay? That means move your feet to the object, then pick the object up. Don't pick the object up and then move your feet to get to where the object is. So move your feet, get close to the object, bend your knees, straighten your back out. Okay? pick up the object, lift up nice and straight, and then move your feet. That's what we're talking about here is to moving, make sure you move those feet first. Move it to the object and then pick that object up. Make sure you maintain what we call a power position while you're holding the object. Okay, what we consider the power position is when your arms are at a 90-degree angle. 90-degree angle here, okay, that's the power position. That allows you to keep that object nice and close to your body so that you can make sure that you're distributing that weight accordingly. Now, when we get past the power position, when we get out to, say here, I'm out to a position like this, that is not a power position at 180 degrees. That object is far away from my body. I'm not going to be able to get as much control and have as much non-pressure on my back as possible. Make sure you keep that object close to your body in that power position. Okay, now, this is something y'all can do today. You can go and experiment with this. Take an object, maybe a folding chair. Okay, set that folding chair up and then try and lift it and hold it with straight arms, just like this. And see how long you can do that before you start to get pain in your back. It's not going to be long, I can guarantee you. Okay, but then pull that object in close, maintain that power position of a 90-degree angle with that object close to your body, and you can hold that for a much longer period of time. Okay, so put it in that power position and maintain that power position when you're lifting that object. So what can we do to avoid the injury? Well, fitness and hydration, we talked about that. Making sure and we prepare to work, getting your body aware of what's going to come. Okay, just that extra 2 or 3 minutes of stretching, of moving, of getting your muscles warmed up to go is going to help us avoid these silly little soft tissue injuries that we are experiencing. Other things. Make sure you use the proper tools and you lift and use the proper technique. Those things are going to help. But the single biggest thing on this list that is going to help us avoid injury is getting help. Okay? Getting help with lifting is one of the main things we can do to avoid back injuries. Now, I said there's no really magic bullet for lifting technique on how you lift to avoid the back injuries. This here is the magic bullet, you could say, for just in general, for avoiding back injuries, is to get help. Okay? Team lifts and lifting objects is one of the best things we can do to avoid those back injuries. Now, when we team lift, make sure you designate a person who's going to lead the lift. 1, 2, 3, lift, or whatever. Make sure you agree on that cadence before you go down to pick the object up. Okay? Make sure that you've agreed on what you're going to do there. You lift up and you lift at the same time. Okay? Bend your knees down. Okay? Engage the large muscles in your lower half. Straight back, shoulders back, keeping that natural S-curve to distribute the weight throughout your body, and lift together. Make sure you both lift together and lift at the same time at the same cadence so you don't off-kilter that weight to put undue stress on the other person. And then make sure you slowly unload that thing together as well. Okay, same thing. When you lower it down to the ground, okay, stay close in the power position as much as you can. Okay, that 90 degrees, and then lower it down to the ground. Other things you can use to help. Use forklifts. You can use dollies. You can use these things called forearm forklifts. Okay, if you've ever used forearm forklifts before, you know those things are magical. Those things are fantastic. They help redistribute weight. My brother and I moved a baby grand piano with forearm forklifts. Those things are fantastic pieces of equipment. But it's those things. It's just admitting to ourselves that we need help. And that's okay. That's okay to admit it to yourself and say, hey, you know what? I need help with this, and getting help from somebody else to help you lift. Okay, so we got to make sure we take care of our back. It's one of those things that is very, very vulnerable because of all the intricacies that go into it. Make sure that we warm up and get your blood moving before you go into work. Because remember, cold muscles plus work is going to equal injuries almost 100% of the time. So get your body ready to start the work. Move around, move your body around, get the blood moving. Okay. Make sure you use the proper lifting techniques, bending your knees, engaging the large muscles in your lower body, keeping your back straight. Okay. And keeping that natural S curve through your body. to help maintain that weight distribution that your body is already built to take. When you turn into that C shape, you mess up that whole biomechanics of your back and the advantages that your body is trying to give you. Try and make sure that you keep your back straight and remember where the fulcrum is. Your fulcrum's your waist, and if you bend over at your waist without engaging those large lower muscles in your body, you get that 10-to-1 ratio. Even picking up a 5 to 10 pound object, that's putting over 1,000 pounds of force on your back that we don't want. Okay, so let's make sure we do it right. Just do it right every single time. And don't be afraid to ask for help. Don't be afraid to say, hey, I need help lifting this thing. Don't try and show everybody how tough you are by lifting it up all by yourself. We've all done it. We've all wanted to make one trip at the grocery, one trip out from the car to get back inside and lifting all the groceries up. It's okay to ask for help. It's okay to make more than one trip. Okay, that's the best thing we can do to help avoid these injuries, is to don't be afraid to ask for help. All right, Jason, how are we doing out there? Do we have any questions?
Folks, if you got any questions, please type those into the chat box right now. We'll get Mike to answer those. So what you're telling me is Mama was right when she
Mom was right, yeah.
your shoulders back. Mama was right.
Yep.
Once you got questions, type those into the chat box and we'll answer those right now. I'm not seeing any questions. Come on, folks. We're gonna let Mike do the final word here.
Well, thanks everyone for being here. I think this is one of those things, Jason says it all the time. Just make sure you do it right 100% of the time. And if we do that, we can avoid some of these injuries. Back, lifting and making sure that we just do it right every single time. God, we got to do it, because if you've ever hurt your back before, you know that pain lingers for a long, long time. Okay, so if we do it right, we're going to lessen the chance that we can have that kind of injury that's going to last for us for a long time.
All right, a couple of questions actually popped up, Mike, after the final word.
All right.
Is it a good idea to stretch if sitting for a long period of time? Thanks, Sheree, for that question.
Yeah, Sheree, that's a great question. Absolutely. You should get up and stretch if you've been sitting for a long period of time. Because what does that do? That helps to loosen your muscles up again. Gets the blood flowing back into those muscles, especially if you're going to move or twist. I'm sitting at a desk all day maybe, and I'm typing reports or doing whatever. You notice you start to get fatigued. Those are those signs of injury. You can feel the discomfort in your back, maybe in your legs. It's good to get up and stretch and move around and get the blood flowing again. Get those muscles loosened back up before you go back to work. Yeah, that's a great question.
Scott says he's having a hard time believing that it's really okay to take more than one trip with the groceries.
Well, I guess that all depends, right? Do you have to go outside where it's cold, or is it in the garage? I mean,
I struggle with that one myself.
Yes.
Trust provide paid yoga sessions as a form of prevention, and then he follows up with maybe jazzercise.
Jason does. Jason does that. Jason at utahtrust.gov. Get in touch with him. He's a certified yogist.
If you want to us tomorrow after we do our confined space training, we'll do a little yoga. We actually did that one time here at the Trust, didn't we? We did a little yoga session here at the Trust.
Oh, we did. I remember that. Yeah, we did that. Yes.
Awesome, folks. Thank you for your time. Thank you for your questions. We appreciate that. And question, somebody asked the question, will this be sent out to review again? And the answer is yes. We're recording this session. We'll post it up to our YouTube channel later today. And we will additionally put it up onto our TreLion site. And that way you can actually track when people have completed the training, if you want to send that out to your whole team. So awesome. Thanks, Mike. Awesome presentation. And
yeah.
I guess you ought to say it.
Well, thanks, everyone. Make sure you go out and have a safe day.